He started hanging out with Adele. Not his fault, my fault. I would just, I never smoked. My mother used to smoke. Used to, have a few when I was drinking when I was young, and
Hmm.
that bad habit. Anyways, I try to be nice to everybody, and I get a knock on my door. I don't have any cigarettes till Friday. Do you have any?
Oh, good Lord.
Just why do people think that because you're nice to them that you're a pushover? Have you noticed that? They do. They
Mhm. Yeah, I think I know who you're talking about too.
Mm, I don't know if I've mentioned this person, a couple doors down. And the hubby actually did this about 4 months ago at 11 o'clock at night, banged on the door and asked Dell. And Dell said,
11 o'clock at night? Come on.
"Mhm." Dell goes, no. So I only had two left. So I said, this is all I have left, and pretty well nothing, almost nothing till payday, because I thought this is going to become a habit. But my point is,
Right.
a lot of people that can identify with this
Hmm.
that because you're kind to people, and I'm not saying like tooting my own horn or I'm so great. I'm not saying that. But I do try to be nice to people. I'm
Yeah.
a neighbor.
Nicer than me, that's for dang sure.
Well, but I love you. You're like my
I
sister.
love you too.
No, but I see this with many, many people that because you're kind to somebody, they think you're a pushover.
Yeah,
Hmm.
essentially, unfortunately. And that's the thing. I would say, if I was a smoker, and by the way, I'm not a smoker, but everybody that I love dearly is.
Hmm. And because I have my son, big youngest especially, Mommy, stop. So I will be stopping. But the point is, go ahead. Sorry, you
Well,
point.
we lost your video, dear
I know for a
Lord.
second.
Okay, I didn't know if you knew. But anyway, I was gonna say, if it was me, since they inherently know that you probably do have smokes, I would say maybe give them one and say, here, I can't really afford to give you any more than that because you're waiting to get paid,
I
you
did.
know.
That's what
But
I.
then, yeah, give them at least one because I'm very. It's not that I'm superstitious. I just don't like to not give anything to somebody who needs it, and I'm like, yeah, at least make the effort, but let them know that you can't really be giving them out because you don't want them to get the expectation that every time they knock they're going to get something
That's
as
right.
well, because you're setting up the expectation as well. And that's for everybody, guys. It's like that's why I give to homeless people and stuff every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while, because on the preface that because I have a daughter, in case she gets stopped somewhere or needs help, and I'm sure Laura thinks about this too, is that if her son or whatever gets stopped somewhere and needs to rely on the kindness of strangers, you give back to make sure to ensure
Yeah,
that
so
they're not going to have a hard time if they
my,
need to rely on strangers.
yeah, because my oldest on the way moving down to where he was, he's going to be moving back.
Yeah.
Partner, they just bought a house. I'm so excited they're going to be here in a couple of weeks. But what does he do? His cell phone falls down, was driving on the highway, it's ice, and he happens to bend down to grab the phone. He ends up in the ditch about
Oh no.
20 miles from his home that he's living in. He
Is he
calls,
all right?
oh, this was like last year. And he goes, calls me,
Oh, I'm sorry.
picking up trees, and he goes, okay, don't flip out. The first thing I said is, when does your mother ever flip out? He goes, yeah, that's true. So he tells you what happened. My first question was, are you okay? Yes. Is your car okay? I don't know. So he did get a tow truck to come, but there were so many people that stopped to try and help him, and they did help him, and the car was fine. He was fine. And I said to him, that's a good lesson, right? Just leave your cell phone on the floor or pull over. But I
Right?
said I'm not that kind of mom. But
Right?
it was just funny because that was the first thing he said. And I said, when do I ever get upset? And he goes, that's true. But my whole point is what you're saying. Yes, there's nothing wrong with paying it forward.
Mm-hmm.
With you and I, especially picking up energy, and I know this is going to lead into our topic,
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of feel it, right? You can
Oh
kind
yeah.
of from somebody. And besides, this had been like Dell answered the door and she didn't ask him because she knew Dell would say no. But like, let's talk to the pushover. That's what I picked up. Like, oh, she's a sucker. She'll do it.
Yeah,
That
people who, yeah, not to interrupt Laura or anything, but that's the thing I think it's like, because I've needed things, like flat out needed things. And I'm like, as much as I really need something, and I do have the balls, mind you, I do, that to go next door and go, excuse me, do you have like a cup of sugar or do you have some margarine or something? And I'm not going to do it because I don't want people to think that I'm broke. I would rather go without than to ask. Now, the only person that really, bare my secrets to are like two people, and one of them's right here in the room with me. But the thing is I know, poor unfortunate Lorilei, but but the thing is that you have your pride, and then you have people that's not. It goes beyond balls at that point, right? Where it's like, well, I feel entitled, and that's what I feel from some of these people. I'm just entitled to what you have. Like, I've had people begging who come out and say, well, God bless you, and kind of like fear mongering. If you don't give to them, that God isn't going to love you anymore. Like, I really give a crap about that. But the thing is that they're like, well, if you don't give to me, then I'm going to be violent. Or if you don't give to me, or if you don't forgive me, then you're a crappy Christian. Or have you seen some of these signages that God bless you, but you didn't give to me, so, F you. What the heck is up with that? Have you seen that?
Not here, but for example, okay, I have a neighbor on each side of him in a townhouse, and the one did quit, and the other one smokes. They've never asked, and if they had, I would, because we're that close. This door out. I don't know them that well. I've chatted with them. Like I said, I'm kind to everybody. When they moved in, hello, and they had dogs, and you talk, you try to be nice to your neighbors. That was what it was to me. And it's been not once, but now it's been twice, right? So to me, like, and Dell answered the door, and she didn't ask Dell. She asked to speak specifically to me. So
right.
I'll speak to the pushover, because the pushover will give it to me. No, don't get me wrong. Neither one on the side has ever asked me. You know how much I love them. I love my new neighbors. They're incredible. I tell them all the time. But I would have in a heartbeat. Like, they had for example, I like menthol cigarettes, and they're hard to get in Canada. They're banned. You have to go to a special. They had a friend come by, and he happened to comment, "Or are those any good?" And I said, "Well, here, try one. I don't mind." Or even at Christmas, I don't know if I told this story on here, and it's not to toot my own horn. I happened to be at a gas station getting gas. And there was a gentleman there that looked like he was in line. And I said, "Are you in line?" He said, "Oh, no, no, no." And I happened to be the last one in line. And he asked me if there was a bus station close by. This was right at Christmas. And I said, "There is, but this is where you go, blah, blah, blah." He said, "I'm not from here." I ended up talking to him. And I could feel this guy was very sincere. He was trying to get to Montreal, which is like trying to get to the other side of the world it's a couple days car ride from here. And his car crashed. He was trying to see his son for Christmas. He hadn't seen him in years. He'd been ill, been really falling on a lot of hard luck. I did what I could. He hadn't eaten in days. I bought him a hamburger. I said,
"See, I remember this, but you guys don't."
That, and then I said, I tried to help him call to find. None of the bus stations were open. So where I brought him, and I thought I talked about on this show, I brought him closer to my house. There's a Walmart, but there's a lot of truckers that go through there because the highway intersects. And so I don't know whatever happened. I'm thinking, God, I hope he got home.
Yeah.
But I knew, like, I could feel it intuitively, it wasn't going to hurt me, like, because I don't just pick up strangers and bring them in my car. But this guy really needed help, and you can feel it. That's what I'm saying. You can feel it when somebody does that. Even what our topic's about. That's why I asked you. I sent you just a video, and I started realizing it's going on more and more in the world, and people to accept this really ritualistic kind of occult stuff that's out there as the norm, or they're trying to normalize young children to this. That's where I went with this, where I was going this way. Hi, Zach, man. He's in the, give him a shout out.
Hey, Zach.
We should remind people, actually, we have lost our United Public Radio Network channel. I'm pouting. Channel right now is Paranormal Radio. So come join us in the chat. We can see all your chat from Facebook, Twitch, all the other places that we're streaming to. But we can really see your comments and interact and type over on UFO Paranormal. We have a brand new channel opened up. I think it is UFO and Extraterrestrials, it's called. Joe had the link up actually on the Dell show before. I'm sure he'll put it in here. And he says he's going to be opening one more channel. So we'll be streaming to that very, very shortly, probably by tomorrow, the next day, I wouldn't doubt with the network. So I wanted to throw that in there. Sorry, Sarah.
No, it's all right. Don't be sorry. We need to make sure that we're supporting fully our network and the whole thing, and especially Joe, who works so hard, and then things get thrown like a monkey wrench and everything, and then he's got to figure out how to spread everything out amongst everybody and try to make it work. So you got to give kudos where kudos are due for him being quick on his feet as fast as he can, considering everything that he does on the daily.
Yeah, because we give Joe Montaldo always props, and I've told people before, it's not because we're kissing his butt. Like,
no,
job all day long, and then he does like shows of his own. He produces all our shows. He makes our job. So we always give a shout out and much gratitude to him for
yes.
all. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But when we're talking about this, and we came up with the Ritualistic Roundtable, because there's so many things in the media, and it's not just Lil Nas, and it's not just all these other things, but it seems to be adding up pretty quickly in like a 15-year span here. Actually, it goes a little further than the 15 years, but it seems to be making up like this gigantor, like snowball rolling downhill, keeps gathering and gathering and gathering. And then more things, and they're like, oh, don't see me, but we see you, and don't see me, but we see you. And some of it is blatant and some of it is not so blatant, but it's actually more in view than you would, I don't know, care to think. And y'all know that I'm not a prude, but some of this stuff is kind of like, I don't get turned off by a lot of things, but that Lil Nas video is kind of like, really, dude?
I share with you, and I was not aware of this. Little Nas X had come out of nowhere with this Montero video that has been nicknamed Satan's Shoes. He's marketing it. There's 666 pairs of these shoes that have one drop of human blood, and I forget what else is in it. And they're selling for
sunshine and squirrel insides.
And they're selling for well over $1,000. I'm sure they're sold out. But
yeah, give me 10 pairs.
I've heard this guy's name before, and I usually stay up on top of most newer music, as you do, Sarah. And he became very famous. His whole market is because he markets to young children. He had a book called C is for Country.
Yeah, because y'all know I put the C in country.
Yeah, all these little kids. Video, he's wearing a cowboy hat, pretending.
It's disturbing.
He's singing about lean, and if you don't know what lean is, up cough syrup and the soda, or as we call it, pop of your choice.
Yeah,
in this song, and then working on Satan in Montero, and this went to little kids that parents, sure, subscribe. It's safe. He's a kid's person.
Most of y'all from knowing me, that I'm kind of an astronaut, and I'm not a hater, but you don't be proselytizing the drugs to the little childrens. You just don't. And it's like, give them a choice. Like, don't be posturing them to be like, oh yeah, lean is the thing, and I don't know what this is, but it sounds excellent. And it's like, ease them in. Don't just drop them in the bottom of the deep end of the pond and then expect them to swim on their way up. It's like, are we posturing people to drop in that deep end and just frickin' drown and end an entire generation?
Or that the parents maybe don't know what lean is.
If they don't, what the heck?
But not everybody has, and your kids, and I've been guilty of this. I'm going to put this out there right there. I've told this story many times on this channel and with our show and on this channel. When my kids were really little, I think 3 and almost 5, I was with their dad, and it was around supper time, and, we'd finish up supper, the boys would go watch TV while we're washing up the dishes and whatever, right? Throwing them in the dishwasher and what have you. Right. And the are laughing their butts off. They're watching it's called YTV in Canada, and the programming is geared to children, like younger children at that hour. And Family Guy is playing. And we're thinking they're watching a cartoon, having a great time. Well, I think we had takeout that week because they hadn't been watching it for long. And so my ex and I are sitting there watching it with them and horrified, realizing our kids have been watching all this adult content in a kiddie format. Obviously, we appropriate actions. But even like Rick and Morty, like I wonder how many parents think that that's just a cartoon and it's safe.
I know. And I love Rick and Morty. I freaking love Rick and Morty, just to sit back and just freaking watch it. But even I go, really, did they just do that? I mean, one of the episodes my daughter turned me on to, because I didn't realize how many seasons there actually were. And my daughter was like, "Oh yeah, this is the one with the this and that," and I'm like, "They show this on Adult Swim? Holy cow!" I really love Adult Swim. I like, I'm a Disney Plus member and all that. I love my animation, and Rick and Morty is freaking genius. But for kids, and once again, we're both not prudes, but at the same time, we don't want little ones to be watching this thinking it's normal. It's not. It's really not.
Is normalizing this, that exposed to this. Like, I think a parent had made a comment to Little Nas X. It was in that video, and they said, "How dare you? My child follows you, idolizes you, is singing songs he is for country, and the whole bit." And then the next video that you put up is you twerking on Satan and the whole bit, and it's quite the video. And it could be taken a lot of ways. I understand that he's being very artistic, but you have to know that your prime audience is preschoolers and grade schoolers.
Yeah.
And what he wrote back was, "Lady, my song C is for Country is about lean and adultery. Maybe the fault is on you. Check yourself."
Yeah, and I watched some of that stuff, and I followed the bunny trail down a few videos and stuff, because Lorilei is so kind to send me some stuff, because I'm not always able to get to all of it all of the time. But at the same time, looking at some of those videos and realizing, and I'm all for freedom of expression, and I'm all for, be your best version of yourself, and whatever that is to you. And I don't care what flavor, color, identity, whatever you are. I don't care. Be your own little boo-boo self. But don't go proselytizing that to 8 and up to 12-year-olds who are confused and are still growing up and don't understand, exactly where their compass points.
It's cool. Satan is cool. You can go twerk on Satan, and
Satan is cool.
His neck. I don't know what he's supposed to be in this video. I don't know if he's supposed to be but I was looking for Satan shoes, because I heard about this right when it came out, and then I didn't even know if I had the right video till I saw the Satan and twerking thing, and I went, "Oh, okay, this is what everybody's talking about." And wow, and I didn't really have an opinion about it. You know what, you do you kind of thing, right? Like, you have the not watch, and
you do you, boo.
But when you have audience that young, and that, and children, and then all of a sudden you upload a video like this, and that there's younger children following you. I'm just wondering if he even geared, I'll have to check it out. I didn't have time, his YouTube channel, because if it's geared to children, he'd never be able to put a video up like that. He'd have to change his rating for YouTube.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is these people, with everybody getting their stuff turned down, and this is going to be a mini soapbox rant for a second, is that regular people are getting their stuff torn down for this, that, and the other thing, but this person go ahead and grind on whatever, and I'm not going to say Satan, I'm going to say some random devil, can grind on them, do whatever, and I love the boots, love the shoes, whatever, keep doing what you do, but I don't think that it should be normalized. I believe in freedom of expression. I believe you should be what you want to be. But let's face it, if I was dressed like that, if I was dressed like that, grinding on my boyfriend on national television on a video, people would have a problem with that.
Girlfriend, because he made it very clear about sexuality, because this is what we're seeing as well. And I'm speaking as a mother of my oldest son that is part of the LGBTQ community. He's a drag queen, he's whatever. Okay, so I'm not judging. Finding also a lot of the old TV classics or whatever it may be is being with a massive switch towards the LGBTQ community. And I agree, yes, absolutely, we should have characters like that. But
yes, absolutely, I agree too. But
and the other thing is not 90% of the world is LGBTQ. And then we
Mm-mm.
gender stuff about that you can decide what gender you want to be at like 3 and 4. We've even seen, I know Dell and I have seen many documentaries of parents that are decided their 3-year-old is doesn't want to be a girl, wants to be a boy. Hell,
Yeah, which I have problems with that.
I was a tomboy. Like,
Yeah.
parents doing that?
Yeah, but the thing is, when we were tomboys growing up, Laura, this is the thing. Our parents let us do the tomboy thing. My best friend, and like you had best friends when you were a kid that were boys as well. And we palled around with them. There was no big deal or whatever. And now people are like going to this over the top thing where I'm going to be pretty princessing my 3-year-old child that was born a male and is still a male essentially, but wants to identify as a female, but maybe and I'm not going to throw an argument because, yes, I know, I realize because I have friends that identified as gay from the time they were really, really small. I get that, but not everybody does.
With my son.
So, but why ram that down people's throats? You know,
It,
why make a big deal out of it?
it's a delicate line, and I can tell you
Yes.
experience. And my son is not overly feminine. I just knew something a little different about him as a 2-year-old. And I knew. I never said anything, never brought it up. And I had him in counseling since he'd been about 5 because his brother was a handful and not on my part, but on my ex's part, not hurting him.
Mm-hmm.
Way, I don't mean that. But anyways, I remember speaking to his counselor when he was probably about 10. And I said to her, I think he might be gay. She went, oh, thank God you brought it up. I didn't know how I was going to bring it up. She says, I kind of suspect the same thing too. And I said to her, listen, it's not a problem in any way, shape, or form. I'm not going to love him any less, or probably you love your kid more and more every day. I just said, how can I best support him when it comes to his realization that I need to be open and honest? So I went to I live in Thunder Bay, for people who don't realize I'm Canadian. And
No, you're
no,
kidding.
yes, Canadian. No, but what I mean is, I mentioned it. It used to be called AIDS Thunder Bay. It's since changed its name. I can't recall it right now at the moment. And I went to speak to the director because up until about 15, 20 years ago, it was horrific to be LGBTQ, especially in our
Yeah,
city, 100,000 people. And I was concerned about how people were going to be to my son. And he made me
right.
so much better. Like, he
Yeah.
told he had been through. It's not as bad as what you're imagining. Never mind, I mean, as a nurse, at one time I had 7 AIDS patients that were terminal. So you get to see all sides of this. Like, it was pretty scary. So he really made me feel a lot better. He gave me some literature. He said, leave it out. Just draw your son's attention to it. If he has no interest, just kind of hang on to it. And that's what happened. And then when my son came out to me at 14, when you brought it up at 11 o'clock, and I've told you this story before, Sarah, it was like in
Mhm.
the back of my hair or something, and we're talking, and he came out and announced that, he had said he was bi because it was easier for him to
Mhm.
time with this. And I said, oh, what'd you say? And he said it again. I said, well, it's about damn time. And he said,
And you're like, well, I love you, but I already knew about it, but you're cool.
and then I reminded him like 3 or 4 when and he goes, oh, is that what that was? I said, yeah. He said, but you didn't have any interest in the literature. So I just kind of hung on to it, and I let him know because I wanted to be able to support him
Yeah.
best. And so again, the reason I share this story, I'm not anti-LGBTQ in any way.
Nope. Neither of us are.
Oh, but I think that there's and many people even that are transgender that I know, and I
Mhm.
yes, they've known since they were little, but it has to be on their time stream, not coming from an adult authority figure, I think. Yes, you need to be there to support the person, but not cram it down their throat. And I don't think anybody knows who or what you want to be at the age of 3. If we
No, and that's our point, guys. We're not trying to say that we're trying to preface with everybody this or that and blah blah. We're trying to say that it's wrong to be ramming it down people's throats when they're that little.
then never mind. I'm glad you mentioned Disney Plus, and we've mentioned this before.
Mhm.
That drew my attention to this because she said, oh my God, you've opened our eyes so much since you moved in. And of course,
Mhm.
knock on the door and say, hey, by the way, you want to hear the latest conspiracy? This is this is that. No, just with
Right.
And she says, I just subscribed to Disney Plus. You're not going to believe what I seen on Lilo and Stitch. So
Mm-hmm.
and we found the regular Lilo and Stitch at the beginning when her older sister's chasing Lilo around. I think she hides it's the dryer.
Yeah, when Mr. Bubbles is there. Yeah.
It's completely, there's nothing on the dryer. On Disney Plus, there is a pizza on the dryer.
Yeah.
Why is there a pizza?
No idea. Kind of creepy and weird.
I have an idea. I think that it may very well be related to certain hashtags that we've seen out there about certain conspiracy theories. Now,
Posture Pizzagate.
never mind that, and you see the amount of occult, of sex, of all kinds of things that have been drawn
Sexy occult. I'm all
in
about it.
nations. Like what I started noticing, because my kids were Disneyaholics, they had every movie, right? And we grew up
Right?
with movies that we could only see at the theater, and now you can
Yeah, like Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, which
yes.
is on Disney Plus, guys.
What they have, though, have you ever noticed that stuff floating in the wind? There's always a floating in the wind, especially like
Mm-hmm.
Pocahontas, The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, all these movies, right?
Yeah.
I challenge people to take a look at that very closely and see what you see in those things.
Yeah,
You'd be
I know. But and then all of a sudden you see all these things that are popping up now, Laura. And come on, how do you see these things now and realize that you saw these as a kid growing up, like I did, on VHS tape, what rentals, things like that, and realize that we've been groomed for certain things, and you're like, oh, that's really trippy, you know? That
it was normal. Like I've told you, we brought this up, and it was Dell that found this. I'm going to read Zach's comments. He's got a couple of good comments here. Is The Owl House by Disney. Now that
mhm,
got me.
which irritates me. They're going to get an email.
Because if you don't pretty well, everything we've just mentioned here and much more, which I will mention, is rolled into one series. Not that
Mhm.
much, but and he doesn't have children of his own. Yes, he's a stepdad, so he thought it was geared to like toddlers. And I said, how would a toddler watch this, Dell? Come on. I said, he goes, well, preschoolers. I said, not preschoolers. I said, I'm guessing probably about the age of 6 or 7 up to the tween age and beyond. Okay. So the
Okay.
character named Luce, go figure what that comes from.
Yeah.
Dresses half as a man, half as a girl. That's fine. But again, we're normalizing this for children.
Right.
And she's in love with her best friend who's a female. That's okay. That's good.
Mhm.
They want to do that. But one of the characters, a demon in the form of a dog. There is a occult oh my God, the symbolism in there. There's spells. There is, you name it. Never mind
Mhm.
subliminally, especially as a child. A
Yeah.
child sponge from the 0 days of age to up to 7. So you're watching this, taking this in, and even though you may be laughing, enjoying yourself, right, whatever it is, you're
Mhm.
putting all that stuff in, and there is crazy occult stuff in this Disney series. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, but if you look at some of the besides the stuff that's kind of blatant, well, for you and I it is. Well, for other people, there's other plus like Kim Possible and other things. If you really, really watch, there's little nuances in other shows that actually show you occult symbols and things like that. And it's like, uh, so did I just see that? It's like, oh yes, I did just see that. It's like,
We're,
oh, clever, clever.
we're aware of it because of the fields that we're in, but think of how many parents that aren't even realizing this, like,
I
like
know.
cartoon, like, the kids like it, they're enjoying it, they're having fun. It's giving me 5 minutes apiece. Which parent doesn't
Mhm.
with younger children?
Doesn't covet 5 minutes apiece when they've got a 5 and 6 year old in the house.
This isn't on parents. Like this all started with Cardi B, and I know that Ken
Oh,
now is after her, and they're having a big fight. And I think Candace is a little over the top about what
yeah,
she's immoral and whatever. Again, I think you do you, boo. I think as a
yeah,
parent, you have the choice to be censoring some things, but then again, there's a fine line because, their friends are listening to certain music.
Mm-hmm.
I remember growing up and we were allowed to listen to Kiss. We had cousins that their parents were very religious and they weren't. And, I hate to say it now, but yeah, we were teasing the heck out of our cousins that you couldn't watch it or you couldn't have the album or you couldn't, talk about it or whatever. That's
Right.
a million times more magnified nowadays, I think, with peer pressure and what have you. And you don't want your kid to be the weird one that can't, who you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. So where do you draw the line? They're
Yeah.
going to anyways at school with kids having phones and on recess
Mm-hmm.
now with what's going on, but depending on where you live, but kids have access to the internet. They can get on this stuff. They're going to see it.
Yeah, and then you're sitting there in class or whatever, some people who are homeschooled because of the whatever's going on, and then you've got, little Susie and little Jackie sitting at their desks, social distancing, but the teacher can go, "Oh, that's a really fine pentagram you've got there, Susie. What is it for?"
They even know it's a pentagram, probably called a Star of David. And there's no
there's a difference in how many points there is, number one. Number two, I would be fairly impressed. Number three, imitation is the most highest of compliments. So most kids learn through imitating the things that they see, and that's the thing, is that when you're dealing in ritualistic abuse or ritualistic this and that, and lovely me over here who's very pro the things that we talk about, I would rather that children make their own decisions on the things that they want to do. And that's coming from an occult perspective, because standing in the bucket that I stand in is pretty broad bucket, and you can't just go, yeah, come on kids, come on down with Uncle Crowley, and and we're going to do this, and we're going to sacrifice a cat today. Can you say cat? Can you say sacrifice? Did you bring your theme today?
There is this series, and then I will read your comments, Zach, I promise.
We'll get to you, Zachy.
Way I believe. Okay, I've seen this. I don't think I sent this to you, Sarah. Now, I don't know if you guys ever had Caillou. We had it. Okay. Well, after 21 years of Caillou being on the airwaves, they've taken it away, thank God. But because that really was irritating.
The baby talk thing really got me.
Yeah, thank God my kids didn't really get hooked on that. Guess what they've replaced it with?
Oh no, what?
A new children's animated series with, I believe it is a penis. And yes, and I swear to God to you, I'll find it and I'll send it to you.
Yes, please send me that. It's what?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What is it called? I'm sorry.
I don't remember.
Oh.
I'm planning on I'll find it afterwards. Remind me when we get off the air. I'll even put a link down below here.
Laura, you were cutting out. I thought you said COCK. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. She didn't say that. Not my Lorilei. No, I would say that, but not you.
No, I didn't. They're not on the air. I won't say it on the air. This is what they've replaced it with, if you can believe that.
Because you're gonna, both starts with C, and C is for cookie, and COCK. It's good enough for me.
And it looks like one. It looks like one with human eyes feature and cartoon form. And what I'm saying, it was on Facebook.
Good Lord.
Or somebody sent me this, and I was like, "You've got to be from Caillou to this."
From Caillou to our friend Cocky.
He's probably
Is his best friend a Saki?
Gonna go to a bukkake party.
Exactly. We're going to Susie's for a bukkake. Strawberries and cream. Extra cream.
I just go. And I'm so glad you pointed this out. I think people know this, so we're not prudes.
No, by far.
For this, I've always told both my children, even my young, with your autism, And even with our internet getting hacked, I think you heard this, you might have heard the story we told.
Mhm.
Some kid telling, I guess Justin was, my youngest was playing Call of Duty. And with autism, he rules are important. And this,
Mhm.
I think it's a kid, was cheating. And Justin called him out and said, "Hey, you're cheating. Cut that out." And he goes, "Say goodbye to your." First, he put LMAO. And Justin said to me when I went in there, "He called me this." And I said, "Oh, that's a short form for laughter in the chat." Because he put,
Mhm.
right. And then I said, "Well, what else did he say to you?" He said, "This person said to him, your parents are going to be really PO'd." They used the word for that. And then they
Mhm.
said, "Bye to your internet." And they got in our network and shut.
What a douche.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I was told curtain because I do my resin in the dining room and the light
Mhm.
eyes if he's watching a video. So I just touched the curtain and the internet went down. Dell's going, "What'd you do? Did you kick something?" And then our son saying,
Do you need to adjust the aerial, Lorilei?
yeah. I'm going, "I didn't touch anything. I just touched the curtain." I said, "I didn't kick anything." And then,
Internet in the Great White North.
well, our son thought, and then he realized he should tell us because he was afraid. And first thing I said to him is, "Honey," and I know people don't believe me. I've never yelled at my kids. I don't.
I believe you.
And I've said to them, I make them behave. And
Laura has the patience of a saint.
well, you have to when you have somebody with special needs, right? Because if I got upset and yelling, it's not going to help. So, anyways, he told me this. And the first thing I said to him is, "Honey, when has mommy ever really been mad at you?" And he said, "Never." And I said, "Well, you need to realize this person doesn't know your mom or Dell."
Mhm.
And I said, "You have nothing to be afraid ever to tell us." But we both had to talk to him about that and realize, because that's what he was worried about. This person's telling him this. And Dell wouldn't believe me that somebody could do this. And I said
Mhm.
that I'm not a hacker. I will never be a hacker. I'm not even an expert, but tech is kind of one of my extra things that I enjoy, extracurricular. And so what I do is I actually go on to hacking sites or hacking boards and I see what's the latest virus? How are people fixing it? How are they doing this? What are they developing? It's like getting into the mind of what they're doing. I know there is software out there that can do this very quickly and very easily. So I told my son, "Well, block it, block him right away." And he did, because he was going to answer him back. And I said, don't even engage with him. I didn't use that word, but I said, block him. And I was talking
Mhm.
now. Something he said made me realize, holy crap, blocking him's not going to stop him. He's in our network.
Oh, Jesus.
He had to call tech support. I was on the phone for an hour waiting to talk to him. And at first, telling a bit of the story, he said, "No, I think he's going," because I said, "Oh, maybe we should get into my account because they have security things to verify it's you." And he said, "Well, no, just tell me a little bit more." As soon as I told him, he went, "Oh, holy crap." Yeah. He goes, "What's your stuff?" "Yeah, we got to get in here right away." There was an unknown device on our network. So this kid was in our network.
What a dick.
Hmm. That changed
That's
all.
not a bad word.
But my point, like I said, there's all kinds of stuff going on like this all over the internet. There's and I've had to explain to my son, with no disrespect, he's 23, but he's very much like a 5 to 7-year-old in many ways. And to explain to him that there's bad people out there. Not everybody's a good person.
Mhm.
You feel bad explaining this. And the same thing with your children. You can't protect them from everything. Yet look what's going on out there. And it's called programming for a reason. I know we've done shows on this, Sarah, but they're
Mhm.
programming your kids to normalize this kind of stuff. That's what scares me. It really,
Yeah, and it's not that it scares me. I just would rather that children grow up with choice. Like I gave my daughter. I let her have a choice. And I am super blessed that she's a pagan. I really am super blessed that she is. And I didn't throw that at her because you know how religious my family is. My father is Orthodox,
Mhm.
Russian Orthodox Catholic, and my mother is a Methodist. And so I grew up with Catholic and Protestant, and then all the people in and out of my life who had different religions. And my daughter's father is a Jehovah's Witness, of all things. And I don't meddle. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to tell you what's good or what's bad. She asked me if I like it or not. And it's like, no, it's not my cup of tea, but I'm not going to bash it with a freaking pinata bat. I'm going to, say my piece and I'm going to drop it. And, but I believe old children should have the chance to believe what they want to believe, be who they want to be. Granted, Susie or Mike want to be this or that, or they decide that maybe they want to be best friends with this person or that person, or they feel like, or the parent feels like they're kind of gay growing up or whatever, and maybe they'll grow out of it, maybe they won't. The thing is that you're allowing them to be their own best person when they're little and grow into the person that they want to be. And part of being a human, a spiritual experience as a human, spirit in a human body, is that you're allowed to do the things that you need to do as a human and map all those things out. Now, however, when we're introducing media and all those other things into our lives, you are basically posturing your child. So please quit letting the internet or the television babysit your kids. And I realize that you have maybe limited resources or limited time to spend, and it's easier to have your kids sit in front of the TV, but please make good choices. Please. This is not a judgment. We're encouraging you to know what your kid's watching. And then if you think it's cool, then cool. That's cool in your house. Awesome. Great. But know that what your kid's watching, know what the content is. That's part of being a responsible adult. Period. End of statement.
Sorry, I didn't mean to keep. I kept feeling
That's
this
great.
pause. I put Sarah knows this, but just if you're just listening, I have a pause. I'm upgrading my internet, by the way. I took care of that tonight. There's a big waiting list, but we shouldn't have these problems in the future. No, my
Right.
point making about sharing that story was
Mhm.
that with my children, raising both of them, I've always told them, I don't care what it is. If you have questions,
Mhm.
I'm very open to you coming, and no matter what it is, and asking me. If you're not comfortable for whatever reason, please go to an adult that you respect, that loves you, cares about you, and have that discussion. Luckily, they kept the lines of communication open with myself. I'm very blessed and grateful for that. But the reason why I say is your friends don't know any different than you do. And it's the same thing with these parents. I don't think a lot of parents realize this, because if you've never, like you said, say you've grown up in a strictly religious home or whatever that is,
Mhm.
not realize what a lot of that symbolism is, or
Yeah.
calling parents ignorant, having a sense of ignorance, meaning not calling you a name, but not being knowledgeable. But you
Right.
may not be aware that this stuff is being in the background or whatever. So we got to be hyper vigilant. And again, there's a
Mhm.
time for it. When your child's mature enough to be able to watch that, you should know your
Yeah.
child better. You're the expert, right?
Yeah, exactly. And not all children are ready for the same things at the same time. Some kids can take some things and some kids just can't. It's like, watching my sister's little ones grow up. It's like some of them are more fragile than others. Everybody has their own little thing. You just, as a parent or as a person, let's say, as a person, even as an adult, you need to be sensitive. And I'm not saying be airy fairy and oh my gosh, I've got the feels, but understand that other people want different things from life and they don't want to experience this or that. And, like me, I'm an astronaut. I want to experience everything that I can, go on the biggest roller coasters, do the best psychedelics, everything. But the thing is, not everybody wants that for themselves. So you have to do things with satin gloves,
Or
you
have
know?
an communication and realize, because this is where I've never understood. I understand it happens, but I've always tried to remember what it was like at that age when my child was a certain age. Of course, I'm not going to remember when I was 2 or 1 or something, but
Right.
say I was 8 and I was wondering about something. I'm pretty, especially with my eldest who doesn't have a disability, he's probably been exposed in some way, shape, or form, or a friend, probably at least a few years earlier with the internet. So, or about sex. Like, I know a lot of people aren't comfortable about talking about sex. Well, you got here because of sex. It's a natural, normal thing. And I think back to when I couldn't have asked my parents these kind of questions or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, my kids will ask me, but that's what I'm saying. If they're bringing up something, or the other thing that I would do, was a teachable moment. Say something
Right.
came and, whether it was TV or what, and I'd ask them, like, what do you think of that? Like, what's your thoughts? Have you heard of this before? Or, and open a dialogue. Sometimes I didn't want to talk about it, and I respected it too. And as my son got older, especially my eldest, and I still try to do the same with my youngest, is, respect their space, their privacy, and not everybody's like that, I understand, but that's kind of how you can gauge where your kid is at too, right? And
Yeah.
especially teenagers are very private. They want to spend a lot of time with their friends, but you still got to know like who they're talking to on the internet, what they're doing. Because that shocked me one night on TikTok on the weekend, 2 weekends ago, the amount of tweens, especially girls, that were on there live streaming with next to nothing on. And I thought,
Yeah. That and Insta, where they're, I'm not, like, once again, I'm not being a hater. It's just the thing that over sexualization of young people, and it's not just the little girls, it's little boys too.
they're underage and not
Yeah.
real. That's a pedophile's dream is like, I'm serious. What I was watching was these girls couldn't have been more than 12, between 12 and 14. And I kept thinking, where are your parents? Like, and I'm not a prude, but, I don't think, none of us thought of those dangers at that age. You think you're invincible, right? Like you do.
Yeah. But the thing is, all these kids, Laura, and I'm sure you've thought about it because you, like me, have a kid. The thing is that you, as an adult, you think back, it's like, if you really think to yourself, Laura, were you ready to have consensual sex at 11 or 12?
No,
Effing no.
about 14
Yeah,
was, and I looked like I was 25, 12. I
right.
that kind of body and I was tall like you are. And
Hmm.
so I looked much older than.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But mentally, that's the thing. Mentally, little girls, little boys, a lot of them, and we're not trying to pigeonhole you, mind you, is that mentally you're not structured, even though people are a lot further ahead than we were. We were allowed to be children a little bit longer. Kids are a lot more, let's say, bunny air quotes, grown upish, let's say, than we were at that age. But at the same time, holy cow, people, you're not ready to make that kind of mental commitment to have sex, because this is the thing that I get irritated by, even as with adults, with the whole over sexualization of adults, where all these Instagram pictures are freaking naked or pretty near, and it's like, mentally, it doesn't matter what age you are. If you're just DTF all the time, where are you at mentally? I mean, really, and that's not a judgment. It's more of a,
Age, to me, that's something somebody's got to navigate on their own, and
yeah,
power to them. My concern is, especially, and I was going to get into this, with many places in the world trying to legalize pedophilia, and you've got these young girls that are nowhere near of age to be dressed in nothing more than almost a bra, and
right.
chatting with God knows who out there. That's my concern for safety. I do want to read Zach's comments before going any further. Hang on. So Zach,
Yeah, sorry, Zach.
back up a bit. It says, I watched Ren and Stimpy at a young age. That's one of my favorite cartoons. I love them. He said, surprised my dad let us watch that as a kid. Looking back, yeah, that was pretty adult, but I love that. I love that show. I still do. Then he said, if I ever had a kid that came out as gay or trans, I would be the kind of parent that says, okay, so did you clean your room?
Right? Hello. Good on you, Zach.
And you, Zach. And then he said, oh, geez, don't mention Caillou. I still have nightmares of having to watch that with my younger brother or youngest brother when he was little. I'm still waiting for my apology from Canada on that annoying show. Don't blame us. That came from France. I
Yeah,
know you.
that it's a French book. It was a book before it was a show. And Caillou, and the reason I hate Caillou is he talks baby talk. And when I was raised, I wasn't allowed to say anything babyish. In fact, my first actual word was thermostat. Yep, you got it, thermostat. So there you go. That's why I hate Caillou.
I had friends that had children, two nurses the same age as they had boys. We all had boys within 2.5 month period. And I remember one of them was disgusted with me about something because I just didn't raise my children like they did because I don't speak baby talk. I never spoke baby talk. I spoke to them like young adults. She thought as small children, I didn't. I geared the language appropriately. I know how to do that, but I just find it demeaning to, and sometimes it's cute, I guess, to a baby or something, but I think, I don't know. I find so many parents look at a child as an extension of themselves, and because they gave them life, they own it. I have a mother like that, that they own you to the end of your days on the earth. And not everybody's like that. But you also need, it's the same thing about sex. Like parents don't want to talk to their kids about sex because not my child. My child's not having sex till they're 50 and or they're going to a convent. And some
That's
people,
true there.
your kid's going to be doing it whether you know it or not. So you got to get comfortable with it because think about what you were doing at that age, and maybe you saved yourself
Yeah.
from,
Hello.
but not everybody is. Hmm.
Yeah. Some people are more than others. It's like, that's why I came at is, with my daughter when she was growing up, and she hated every second of it. It's like, yeah, do you need birth control? Blah, blah, blah. It's like I found out she had a boyfriend. I automatically was like, do you need birth control? And she's like, ew, gross, mom. And I'm like, I would rather that you talk to me about this now than it becomes something we talk about later as something that's going to be really uncomfortable, you know?
I've talked to my eldest son about Plan B, and I told him there's, in this day and age, there is no excuse for an unplanned pregnancy. There really isn't.
No, not now. Unless you're trying to have a child and
I
and
said,
and it just happened to be that you guys went to, Red Lobster and had a few too many drinks and woo, we're pregnant. Woo.
what I said to him was, if your friends, because there's an age that you can buy Plan B, if your friends, something happens and they're not able to go to their parents, no, I'm not going to sign for them to have an abortion or something. But I mean, if they need to talk to somebody about some options that are available, and no, I'm not giving it to them. Because a lot of people don't know about this, that Plan B, at least over here in North America, I can't speak for every state, but I know that in a lot of states and here in Canada and many of the provinces, you can get it over the counter. So that if you have an oopsie, you say you have too much to drink or whatever it is, you can go talk with your pharmacist and pick it up, and usually don't even talk to you anymore. You can just buy it, and then just in case you don't have an abortion or miscarriage or anything, but it just doesn't allow for anything to happen. And, a lot of people don't realize even that if you're, say, on birth control, a certain antibiotics will cancel out your birth control. A lot of people don't know that either. So there's things out there, that in this day and age, and again, if you're an adult, good on you. You can do whatever you want. I'm talking about year olds, 13-year-olds, and I know 12 and
Yeah.
13 looked after that have been mothers at that age. Hmm.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And we're not talking down to that. It's just that the media and everything else is posturing. It's like, but I still can't get the visions. I'm sorry, what?
Teen mom. They're making millions of kids. It's fine.
I know the whole thing that making it cool to be a teen mom and all that other stuff. It's like it's more of a pain in the butt than you think. It's not an MTV lovely affair. People who have children when they're underage
Hmm.
is a nightmare for them. I don't think that it's not a cool, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's not as cool as some people would think that it is. It's like queuing to get benefits or queuing to get your child into the doctor or whatever when you're 13 or 14 years old. Can you even imagine that? Come on.
I can't. And the other thing is, for this girl, she had her daughter around the same age as my eldest, and we were in and out of the hospital together a lot. And I don't think she'd been around a lot of newborns because we had a heck of a good time. The nurses would come in. We were in for high blood pressure. We were supposed to be sleeping. We were up all night chatting and giggling,
Mm-mm.
same age. And I remember her saying, "Oh, I just can picture it now when this baby comes out, just peacefully rocking in the chair." And I'm going, "Oh, dear God, dear God, dear."
Apparently, you've never had a child before.
First, and she came to visit the hospital I was in just before I'd had my eldest again with high blood pressure. And she walks in, she goes, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I said,
Sorry, bitch. Sorry, bitch. On you now. It's
said
all you.
everything I had to bite my tongue to tell you, honey, you're not peacefully sitting in a rocking chair, being a newborn,
You're
and the
not
other,
peacefully doing nothing with a newborn.
young girls thinking they're feeling very unloved and they'll have something to love them back and they'll love it. Yes, that will happen. But what they don't realize, like you'll meet many that never had a newborn and they'll say, what do you mean you didn't have time to have a shower? Hey, believe
Believe me, you'll know when it happens to you. The whole needing to bring the bassinet or the baby bouncer into the shower with you in the bathroom so that the baby is in the bathroom with you when you take a shower. For the 2 seconds you can have a shower, maybe even wash your hair before the baby needs you again when you have a newborn.
parenting. It's like I don't want to get out of the shower soaking wet when I've got a child screaming its head off, thinking it's dying or something. Like I'm serious. I've seen people say that to their spouse, like they're off at work and you're home. What do you mean you didn't clean the house? What do you mean you didn't? I didn't even
Sure.
shower. I'm still in my pajamas with
Like,
spit on it.
smell like sour milk and ass. What do you think I did all day? Disneyland? Jackass?
Wrong. I hope you guys don't think we're really giving it to parents because we're not. We're parents.
No, we are parents.
It's important because it's really concerning me. I mean, again, getting back to the topic about pedophilia. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I never realized or thought about the pedophiles. They existed. It was somebody who drove up in a car and said, "Hey, little girl, want some candy?" Well, that's
I'm
not.
jumping in that van going, yeah, I want a puppy too.
Yeah, but that's not what nowadays. Like I said, I was really shocked. I actually, my heart hurt to see all these young girls on there, and maybe they all think that they're talking to boys. We're all boy crazy at one age, just like guys go through that phase too when they're growing up, girl crazy. But the thing is, how do you know who you're talking to? There's a great reality I was watching, and it started in the UK. I think they did one season, or it might be two in the US. I forget what it's called. I think
Oh,
it's
I'm gonna say,
called The Circle. And a bunch of people that go to this big condo, but there's different floors and they come in, but nobody knows who the other is. You don't know if you're being catfished. You don't know who you're speaking to. You text back and forth. It's a really interesting premise. And the reason they started this was to prove to the public you have no idea who you were talking to on the other end of a conversation. I mean, I guess
mm-hmm.
chatting, but some of these people were video chatting, believing
Yeah,
they were a certain age or that they had a certain profession or whatever it was.
right.
And they narrowed it down one by one. And I think the prize was $100,000, who was sort of the victor of it all. And the one year, one guy, I think that won, actually took on his girlfriend's persona. Like they never
Oh,
met, but they thought he was a woman.
oh, good Lord.
Hmm.
Is this on Netflix? Where is it?
I think it is. Remind me when we get off here, but it's called The Circle because you know how much of a reality junkie the Dell is. And
Yeah.
Canada is on right now, so he watches every podcast about the review. And I think it's called Rob Has a Podcast. And they were mentioning this show and they're starting to review it on YouTube on Rob Has
Mm-hmm.
a Podcast, talking about each episode. And I'm telling you, it's pretty eye-opening. It's funny, some of it, and entertaining, but you really do get to see the logistics of this. And my whole point is, isn't it California that has changed their laws that if you sexually assault somebody within 10 years of your age, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that the charges are dropped? It's okay. So if you're 24 and you have sexual relations with a 14-year-old, that's only a 10-year difference, so there's no problem.
That is effed up.
Yeah, look up the law. I think it was changed this year or last year. I remember there was a big to-do about it. There's many, many groups out there. There are many countries that are trying to say that pedophilia is an actual normal sexual
Yeah,
desire.
I saw that with NAMBLA and there's a couple other associations that are trying to make it. A lot of them have actually made it normal to the mainstream for pedophilia, for certain kinds, let's say. Let me preface with certain kinds of pedophilia. And pedophilia, guys, so that you know, is any kind of sexual act, and yes, kissing is still a sexual act, any kind of sexualization of a minor child, and that's anybody under the age of 18.
Mhm.
So if you're listening and you're naughty, then maybe you might want to correct some of that stuff, because having sex with somebody who's under the age of consent and doesn't have all their faculties is not cool.
Well, I'm going to say this though. Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here from a healthcare professional standpoint. And I've seen doctors speak about this because I've looked at this quite a bit. And I think it started with the Me Too movement. How many people could say Me Too? And I fall within that.
Almost everybody, yeah.
Okay, so there's something to this, but my point is nobody, and there's been a few people that have actually come out. There was, I think, a documentary in the UK talking about this. That wakes up. They said it usually shows up around the age of 13 or 14 when sexual maturity shows up. You're not choosing to have these fantasies and real, whatever, to have sex with a child. Some people know what's wrong. Some people just go with it. But my whole point,
Mhm.
where do you go for help? Because it's so taboo. Who do you tell and how do you get help? Because you know it's wrong. Like this is
Yeah.
one very open about it. So they've made it very clear, letting people know they have these inclinations. Do not please leave me with your children. Do not, I don't, and they've never ever given in to that desire. Or they claim that they haven't. I think they even had a
Mhm.
thought that that's 100% infallible. But
Yeah.
my is, if we want to stop this, because I don't agree with that this is a normal sexual desire. I don't agree that it should be legalized, but I
Mhm.
do think that it should be okay for somebody to be able to come out and say, look, this is happening. I know it.
Mhm.
I need help. How can you help me? Hmm.
Yeah, and I agree with Laura on that, because that's a really good point. That some people, when they have their moments of, let's say, weakness, we're not saying that it is, if let's say if you have a moment of weakness, it's not, people have said that it's, they're making it so that even if you say that I can't be around this, or I can't do this, or because I'm triggered, let's say triggered, because triggered is a big hashtag right now, right? That I'm triggered by this, that, or the other thing, and it makes me want to go and do this or that. We're making it harder for people to admit that that's how they are feeling, and that they feel like they're not going to. And no, I'm not trying to put words in people's mouths. I'm just trying to say that we're making it harder for people to come forward and say, yeah, I have a problem and I need you to fix it. That's part of the issue, is that we over sexualize everything, including cheeseburger and shoe commercials. We don't need to be doing that. And I'm not saying it all needs to be surgical and stainless steel. I'm just saying that we don't need sexy this, and we don't need sexy freaking cheeseburgers, and we don't need sexy elementary school supply commercials from Ross. I'm just saying we don't need any of that.
Or
It's like,
t-shirt, daddy's girl. But what I'm
yeah.
really concerned with me, and I know I told you about the documentary. It's called Through the Devil's Eyes, and it's from Poland. And it's a documentary, but be prepared, because I'm not a crier and I cried, but I made myself watch it because this is going on. We need to be aware of this kind of stuff. But there are people out there that have these kind of desires for like babies and toddlers, and like say that did start at 13 or 14. That there's no justification on this planet that I can possibly think of. You ruin a child's life doing something like this. But where do you go to get help? Who do you talk to? Like you say, my God, I didn't plan this. I woke up and this is what, like, it's not over sexualization even. I agree with you, Sarah. Yes, we don't need all that stuff to sell something. But my point is, there's people that have these issues, and it's become a whole underworld of the internet. There's a gentleman by the name of, I think it's Ron Swanson. He does a channel over in the UK about
Mhm.
pedophilia and the deep web, and it just goes far and deep and wide. Or you even go, like I say, back to the Me Too movement. Like that was practically every second or third person could say Me Too as a child even.
Yeah, even as a child in some cases. And let me turn the thing back into the ritualistic thing, is that some people don't realize that when we're posturing and everything else, we're kind of playing into other hands. And um, even when you feel bad and you want to act on certain things and you want to act on certain behaviors that may not be the ones that most people mainstream think are okay, it doesn't make you satanic. But however, there's other things that kind of do make it kind of in that way. And I'm not saying it in a broad spectrum, just lumping all into everything, because I am an occultist. I can tell you that some things that I do, people probably think is pretty satanic. Well, it's not, in fact. I do things for specific reasons only. But then on the other side of the coin, we have other people who are posturing to do things. Let's say that you're on cue for Tim Hortons, Laura, and you saw this awesome commercial for this brioche bun, and because Laura likes her little this or that, but she doesn't always treat herself. But maybe this commercial really turned you on for, no, I'm not saying not sexually, but really liked the item. But I look at this commercial and go, that is totally worshipful of some kind of schemonic thing. But people are on cue at Tim Hortons to get this schemonic thing for months, because it is forever this awesome thing. But this is the thing, you're being postured to get this or that because the powers that be know that they are prefacing or posturing themselves to get into a better position by using you as a pawn to do their bidding for them. So you're welcome. Mm-hmm. So you're doing these things for the heart of somebody else to get what they need. Mm-hmm. So if you're doing these things and you don't know that you're doing these things, so you need to wake up a little bit and realize that repetitively you're going to continue to do these things until you realize that you're only falling into the hands of somebody who would only use you and throw you away like a tissue.
Well, you're right about that. I want to read Zach's comment. Got some good points here. My point with this is that, yes, I agree with everything that you're saying. But the point is, okay, so this generation, and I think we're going to, and I've joked about this, but it's true, we're going to have a whole new generation of children of the corn, not corn, because babies are going to have a baby boom.
Yeah.
So this generation, 5 years before, we've really made a major shift to the far left. Okay, so this whole generation is going to be raised with this. They're going to be exposed to, because they're trying to normalize Satanism, and I'm not anti-Satan or anything or demonic type things. We are seeing this, and they're not hiding it really. They're coming out quite openly about this, and that's going to seem normal. Do you see where I'm going with this? That every generation, like, think about what was taboo for us growing up, and I'm 55. And I was part of the MTV and whole thing like that coming up, right, with videos and what have you. So we had a certain set of morals and ethics and belief systems.
Yeah.
As we've had children and then grandchildren, every generation, it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just going to evolve and evolve and evolve. That's just normal. And
but yeah, not to interrupt Laura's thought there, but where are we going with this? It's like, how much bigger are these favors going to go, and how big of a gesture is modern marketing going to make towards certain deities or this or that? And I'm not going to say everything is generated or gravitated towards that, but it's working on it. So what exactly are the royal we trying to get for these people? Because you can't get richer, you can't get, there's only so much rich you can get, there's only so much pretty, there's only so much thin, unless you want to be in the ground or cremated, then you're nothing. So what are you trying to do? Are we trying to bring down Cthulhu? Are we trying to bring in Leviathan? Because I can guarantee you that's not something that you want. I mean, if you want, you can talk to me about it, because we'll have a really interesting conversation, mind you. But some of this stuff, it kind of makes you scratch your head and go, are we feeding this thing, or what are we doing with these ritualistic things? Are we like the Oscars? Did you see any part of the Oscars the other day?
No.
there was a lot of stuff on the Oscars, and perpetually there always is, but it's getting more brazen, a lot more brazen, even though we're in
Viewing audience ever. I believe it was down by 58 or 60% from last year, and that was an all.
Mhm. Yeah, because people have no to zero expectation, like like, well, why would I want to watch that? There's not going to be anybody in the audience, or you know,
Mhm.
um, like with Glenn Close doing her little booty dance, which I thought was really interesting and whatever, and I thought that was really awesome. But the whole thing is that you are seeing the sea of famous people,
Mhm.
and you're expecting your expectations as Joe Public are this, that, and the other, depending on who you are, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know about you, but I used to like have parties for the Oscars, and I would like dress up and make Oscar picks and stuff. And like in the last couple of years when I actually lived with my mom, I actually would dress up and we'd make picks, and I'd make a really nice dinner, or we'd get takeaway and drink champagne and the whole thing. And now, because of the you know what and the strictures, and I will say strictures because that's what it is. Uh, where are we? Everyone's like, why do I want to watch that? Because it's not going to be fun.
Mhm. I don't know. You know what? I have to be really honest with you. I think it came from hurting my back over 20 years ago. And I literally was almost in bed for 20 years. And, for a while, yeah, you really got into TV because there wasn't anything else to do. And I really grew quickly bored of it because I have the type of mind that's got to be stimulated. Like if I'm not researching, I got to be doing something. And it
Yeah, I
just
need to be stimulated too, but
gets stimulated. No, but I mean, not being you know what, but no, I need that. And to me, it just felt very mindless, repetitive, and it was almost like without knowing the word, I saw it for what it was, just programming. Don't get me wrong, I love Supernatural. I would watch it. There are a few shows once in a while I will watch. I don't even see most movies anymore unless Adele's watching them and I'm doing something craft wise where I am and I can see the TV. So I got away from a lot of that stuff. And just because I found it boring. And yes, don't get me wrong, the Oscars can be very exciting. I had even thought about one time trying a party with it. But you know what? Dell and I learned together really quickly. I think with my back injury, it's really hard for me to go, and you would appreciate this yourself, Sarah, going to a theater to sit in those chairs, and then you got to get all dressed up. And so what we quickly realized was, being able to watch whatever movie we kind of want to watch at home long before this stuff started. And when you wanted to pause it, you wanted to go for a bathroom break or, grab some takeaway, as you said, or we call it takeout or whatever it was a nice treat. Want to have a couple drinks. Yeah, you could do that going to the theater, but somebody's
Mhm.
and we just realized, like to go to the movie theater for two people, you're looking at 60 to $70.
Yeah,
And,
if
you know,
anybody eats or drinks anything, especially.
so we just said, hey, like, don't get me wrong, there are some movies that you do need to see on the big screen.
Oh yeah.
But overall, yeah, we just realized that we just love doing this at home. So I'm not a big TV person. Dell is. Dell's a massive TV person, but he's not watching regular programming besides that his guilty pleasures of Big Brother or, the occasional reality TV stuff.
He starts watching Real Housewives.
Loves it. I was just
Oh my God.
that's
Jesus,
all,
really?
not even that. Lisa Vanderpump's Vanderpump Rules. He loves it.
Uh-huh.
And they're all were in competition to get married. Now they are popping out babies like rabbits. I swear to
Oh,
God,
good Lord.
same time because they're all having babies within about a month and a half of each other.
Oh my God. What is it, like a competition to see who can get knocked up the fastest?
I think so. But and then what he does, like with the Real Housewives, he used to watch it and he'd be yelling at the TV, getting so angry, and I'd be going, "Why are you watching?" He goes, "All of them, just ridiculous." And I never understood it, but he likes to watch it. But he watches a lot of documentaries too, or like he said, right now he's into a lot of Chinese movies. And actually, they do have really good storylines. Like a lot of foreign films are really excellent, especially if they've got
Yeah.
titles or. Mhm.
And some of them are really super well done. So don't snooze on the just because they don't speak your language kind of thing. Because some of the foreign movies are really really good.
So I don't watch a lot of TV. Have I watched the Oscars from time to time? I usually get bored in them. I like to watch a pre-show to see what everybody's
Yeah,
wearing.
I love to see what they're wearing. Oh, the shoes, the hair, the everything. I've got to see it all. And the makeup.
Yes. So I
Yeah,
was time. I didn't even realize it was on, and then I started getting notifications from YouTube, and I thought, oh, I'll watch it whenever. So plus it's hard for me to sit still, and what we can tell when I'm on camera, I'm moving around because I just can't sit still in one spot too long with my back.
me,
So
me
I'm
too.
watching a video. I am usually doing something else, multitasking. Like it's either off to the side while I'm doing something, or I'm just listening to it. I'm just that kind of person. I don't know. So I've never really gotten into a lot of TV shows anymore. I think I just had my fill from, like I said, even what's going on in the world right now. I know I've told you this, Sarah, and I think I said on the show, this isn't anything new for me. Not that I don't have empathy for people that this is new to, but I've been living this way for a long time. So I found ways to fill my hours and do stuff. I'm more busy now than when I was working three jobs, but that I realize that's not for everybody. So I've kind of
Yeah,
evolved different type of person, I guess, or I'll be listening to music, being a chronic pain person. If I'm having a really awful day and it's hard to move around, nothing for me works better than sticking on your favorite tunes, cranking them, and
yeah.
going, and then you can do what you have to do, right? Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. Putting on your music and trying to raise your vibrationary level. Because I know that, especially when I take my long drives or whatever, I have to listen to music. And the reason I listen to music is it keeps my mind off how much my spine feels like it's grinding in my lower spine. It really hurts. But if I'm singing along the music and going down the road, then I really don't think about it. So it's kind of like a mind over matter kind of thing.
Like I take lots of courses, and I always say I'm not cheap. It's just that being on a fixed, pension, not by choice either,
Mm-hmm.
free stuff that's out there because there is a lot of free stuff. Or I will pay. Like I got all the titles that I put behind my name when I mention who or what I do. Yeah, I've paid for that. I've worked with mentors. I've done whatever. But I always, and you've said it yourself, Sarah, we will be lifelong learners. I love
Yes.
learning. I think education and knowledge are so empowering. So I guess where I'm going back to our topic is, what's going to happen with this next generation? Like, is this another in? Or if we're even looking at whomever is putting this kind of programming out, what are you programming people for when you're normal
Yeah.
stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And it makes me wonder if we're programming the old to go into like a destructive kind of sense, or we're grooming some of them to rise above and to be the overseers, let's say, and the other ones are going to be the peons, the ones that do survive. Or because you've got the culture that's extreme emo, and then you've got the other part of the culture that is, I can do it. And there's not really a 50-50 on that. It's like maybe a 60-40, but that's pushing it, maybe.
Well, the
And
other,
it seems like the next gen. I'm not meaning to
oh,
interrupt Laura here, but it seems like the next generations just keep getting weaker and weaker and weaker,
but
and we got to live to be pretty goddamn old.
is that not their fault? And what I was going to say is, I hate titles like millennials or whatever. I will use it to remind people of what age group I may be referring to. But my point is, I don't necessarily even agree with maybe when you're a little kid, like, my kids played soccer at 3.5, 4, it was activity. Were they really playing soccer? No, but they're getting outside, getting around other kids, a little bit of activity. Yeah,
Right?
it doesn't need to be a winner. But I really truly believe that this belief system that everybody's a winner, that's not real life. Not everybody,
No.
somebody has to lose. And what is there the impact to stimulate you to want to do better, or to become the best version of yourself that you can when mediocre is okay. We're all the same.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm confused by that as well, Laura. Where everybody's like, it doesn't matter, and I'm just to do this, but I like pink and I like this, but it doesn't matter that I like that. There's individuality, but there's a duality that goes with it. And it's like they're either like or they're like, oh yeah, I'm super about it, but I'm mostly. And It makes you go,
Shock when you.
WTF?
Mhm. It's called.
Who's raising these people? It makes me want
Sorry.
to take. I'm sorry. If you're that mom, I want to talk to you right now. I'm like, seriously,
Mhm.
seriously. I'm sorry, but the thing is like, where do you come to that? It's like I realized with my own kid, I never ever hit my daughter ever. Did I threaten it a whole bunch? Oh heck yeah, but I never, because I didn't want her to be taught through violence, and that's on me. That's on me that she has some personality traits
Mhm.
because I never taught her that way. But it also makes her the fabulous person, individual that she is. She's tough.
Mhm.
I wouldn't want to go against her because she'd freaking come back leading the flag, the whole thing. But then we've got the generations that are underneath her that I'm like, it makes me want to hit them with my car. And I drive a Fiat. So the thing is, it's like, uh, calling somebody a PUSS, you know what, it has a different meaning when those people are, people who have a, like the two of us, we're pretty dang tough. So there needs to be a new qualification that comes in underneath that for these weak as people that are coming through that are starting to have all these opinions, let's say. They're not even really opinions. They're more like, well, I felt this way, but this is the way I feel. And that's that. It's
Well,
like,
I for kids because what happens is it's such a shock getting out in the real world, and you really can't put that on these kids. You've been raised that way to believe that that's what life is and that's what reality is, and then you get out in the real world, it's like your whole reality is shattered because you believe that, well, just doing whatever was fine enough and we're all the same anyways, and that's not the way it is in real life.
yeah, exactly.
Was, never mind the subconscious programming that we're seeing, it's the normalizing of things that could be, and I'm not trying to be a fatalist here or really negative, but can be really dangerous. Like,
Yeah,
like this demonic type stuff that we're seeing a lot of, especially.
yeah. And it's not just that we're saying the demonic thing, because it's really not. It's the thing that it kind of gravitates in that direction because it's self destructive. It's, I love this and that, but I really don't love myself because I suck. And it's like, I have moments of suckage because I'm in chronic pain. I mean, I can't speak for Laura, but when you're in chronic pain all the time, you really don't think a lot of yourself sometimes. You wake up and don't really want to be alive. But the thing is that because I'm Generation X, we're raised by baby boomers who you had to be tough to survive it. And in going on with that, it's like, yeah, can you come back with some real problems today? Because you complaining about your vagina really doesn't help my situation. It really doesn't. It's like, seriously. I mean, Laura, the look, hi, hi, baby. Oh, it's Emmy.
Okay, so I don't feel that way. But the reason why I don't feel that way is, I can be honest with you, I don't remember what it's like not to feel this way, because I hurt my back when I was barely 16. So for me, it's the norm, and I've had to learn how to cope with it and to deal with it as best I can. Does it mean every day is wonderful and I'm floating in the clouds and life is all woo woo? No. But lots of times it may involve maybe some meditation, maybe some binaural beats, whatever it may be, to help stimulate your brain. Anything, understanding about endorphins that can stimulate endorphins helps with pain control. And sometimes you just gotta suck it up and do it. Do I hate myself? No, I don't hate myself, because it is what it is. And I
Yeah.
believe that there is a way to fix this eventually. I may not have figured out how to completely heal it yet, but I believe that
Mhm.
it can be done. I teach that kind of stuff, and I have to hang on to that because I've seen it happen with other people. Am I being
Right.
No. But I think that mind over, I do believe the mind is very powerful. It's hard
Yes.
to harness that when you're in, you know, pain. But can it not be done? I don't believe that. I believe that, yes, it eventually can be done. I do want to read Zach's comments quickly here because we're running out of time. This was a good discussion tonight, Sarah. I really enjoyed this. Zach says, um, the media demonizes somebody like me for having right-wing views, yet they sexualize children and call me a hater for criticizing the content they put out. Oh, it's
Hmm.
a whole show on that because yes,
Yeah.
this cancel culture and ganging up and keyboard warriors, a lot of stuff they'll say that, trolling, they would never say to your face, right, Sarah?
Oh, heck yeah. It's like if I showed up on your doorstep, if, like I said, I'm a troll's worst nightmare. I have programs to even find where you're actually. It doesn't matter what kind of VPN canceller you got, I will find you. If I show up on your front porch, it's granted that you have caused me some kind of
Yeah.
pain.
He's warning you people. Zach Mann actually has a good point here. He says, if someone has thoughts of pedophilia, yet they haven't harmed any kids, are actively getting help, and are taking precautions to staying away from kids, I will support getting the help they need. And I agreed with him, but I also put, while we were discussing things, I said, but how and where do they go for help? And Zach said, at Lorilei, that's still something I wish I had a definite answer for. Exactly. I think most people with a bit of a heart, when you've got somebody that is conscientious of this, is aware of it, and is seeking help, but that's the thing, to be able to have that conversation with whom and where do you go for that kind of help. And then Zach wanted to add, the last comment he put was, on long drives, I'm the guy with the windows rolled down while blasting the radio and smoking a cigar. Yeah, sure, rub it in. You're in Arizona. Sarah's in Florida. Yeah, we'll do that this summer. Not the cigar, but
Without the cigar, yes, I'll be doing that. But I do cruise around with the top down a lot, but I don't smoke. So there you go.
I like cigars. I wouldn't smoke a whole cigar, but I don't mind them. I mean, it might happen once every couple of years, but I'm not opposed. And like I said, Sarah has such terrible asthma. Like she really, really, really does. And I feel so bad for her because like the winter time especially, and I'll forget because she'll be fine, and all of a sudden, right, Sarah, you can't even talk.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's genetics and where I am geographically, let's say. So it stinks.
So I don't know if we really helped anybody out here tonight. I don't even know if that was the point, but to really maybe just be a real critical thinker. And we all make mistakes. Like I shared with you guys what happened with Family Guy with our house. And, and this, like I said, is it on the person that's putting it on television, strictly geared to children's television? It's
Hmm.
TV, youth TV, starting out with preschoolers TV in the morning, all the way through the day. And then around after school, it's geared to the school gang. Like we're talking grade school to maybe middle school age. And
Hmm.
usually didn't put the more grown-up programming on till about 9 o'clock at night. And they let you know because it was geared to teens then. So when you have that kind of programming going on with something that you think you can trust as a parent, to be showing age appropriate cartoons, because that's what it was. Again, I think Cardi B and Little Nas X do have a point that
Hmm.
they're going to do what they want to do. They're going to be I'm going to be me, boo. So you want to say if that, or they do. It is on the parent, but we can't be everywhere all the time. So what's the
Yeah.
answer?
And that's the thing with Cardi B, because I really want to have a conversation with her about, as a woman in media and active culture and stuff like that, because I've been in the business all of my life, is that the over sexualization. And I realize that as women, we fight for our rights incessantly, but to go out and be humping and pumping everything on the freaking
Up.
on
WA.
the on the stage and everything live, and you know half of me is like proud of her that she's so free to do that. Then the other half of me is like, damn girl, do we really need to be that open about it? I mean, do I want to look like that kind of a whatever? And what does that make us? I mean, the royal us as females, what does it make us look like? We're just out to get what we can and quit it. Like, I mean, seriously. I mean, and I realize a lot of people are like, yeah, like guys have done it for years. Why not us too? But, I believe that we should, as women, should reserve some decorum that I'm not saying it's for everybody, but in some people we should have some mystery to us where we're not like open chaps, pumping things on the floor and whatever, so that people can see everything that we've got as far as goodies. I think that some of that needs to still remain a mystery and be able to share that with our partner and whatever. And I realize that's an antiquated thought or whatever. What do you think, Laura?
I I think, well, I think it goes back to Madonna. I think she broke the mold. And then when she had a child, all I kept thinking is, what are you going to, how are you going to explain this to your daughter one day? Because she did have her first child was a daughter. And as I understood it, she didn't allow her children to watch any TV or anything. Like, obviously, they're grown. Her two oldest, especially, she's adopted. Some, but the thing is, that's where I think for Cardi B is that's her brand. You do you, boo. But I will tell you, when Della and I seen the video for WAP, and Della is not a prude, not in any way, shape, or form, neither are I. We were both like, wow, like, holy cow. Yeah, hey, you do you, boo. That's fine. But she's got an infant daughter that's probably getting into toddler years.
Yeah,
But I just wonder, what do you tell your kid? Like, don't do what I do. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like I say, I understand it's a brand. I
yeah.
understand it does. And again, everybody's free to be their own person.
Hmm.
Her,
Oh,
you hear about the money, and it makes the money for her
right.
itself. We could do a whole show on this to continue, but I
I
keep
have a
thinking
question.
it's gonna say, mm-hmm.
I have a question for everybody, not just for Laura, but what's the difference between damn that's sexy and oh my gosh, that's gross?
Well, that's again
Where's the line?
moving the line again, like what was the say in the 50s, women, I mean, and even the early 60s, you had Marilyn Monroe, there was Sophia Loren, there was Rita Hayworth, and so on and so forth. And back then, that was considered very risque and what they were wearing and doing. Yet now here we are now with things like WAP from Cardi B. That's
Hmm.
kind of talk. We may continue this discussion because, like I said,
Yeah, we should.
moving the or like, where are we gonna be? Like, are we just all gonna be walking around naked, letting it hang out? Maybe. I don't know.
Not me, yo. The thing is that, as much as I want to, I listen to some of the lyrics. Like when I was driving home from my massage, I heard Cardi B's Up, and it's like, yeah, some of that stuff. I'm like, yeah, yeah, you tell him, yeah, yeah, and I hear some of the other lines, and I'm like, whoop, whoa.
I know it's to watch, but again, knowing that young minds watch that, and again, we started the show with this, that we emulate what we see. That concerns me. That really concerns me. I do want to read Zach's comment because he put a comment. He goes, Cardi B is not worthy enough to sit in the presence of Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy. Now, I want to actually get Cardi B into a conversation because, I mean, and the City Girls, because they also were kind of on that same train at the same time with the City Girls, where there's a couple of artists that actually come from the City Girls in Miami, where I am all for feminism in certain amounts, but some of it is a little bit, where do you draw the line? Where I want you to go out, you do you, boo, and I'm really behind you, and then it's like, oh, you really put that turd in your mouth now.
Yeah, but let's
What the
so
heck?
probably continue this discussion. Had she wore a button-up white shirt and very little makeup and a pair of I don't know, tight jeans, for example, and
She went
whatever,
all Shania Twain, you mean?
do you think that she would be where she is today if she didn't?
No, and that's the point, right? The over sexualization, booty in your face. Get it? Yeah. It's like, it's motivational, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want my man to think I'm a whore kind of thing.
I don't think she cares.
I guess if you get to a certain thing, and it's like I would rather talk to her and find out where her head is at with that. But at the same time, when you listen to the lyrics of a lot of the songs, like Saweetie and Tyga and SZA and all these other people, and Doja Cat, you listen to some of the stuff, and it's really motivational until you get to some of the lyrics, and it's like, ugh, that makes me feel icky. As a woman, that makes me feel icky.
We would love to have you on the show. I doubt you're listening, but you never know. We'd love to we want to hear your thoughts. Like what makes you tick? We want to know what
Yeah,
makes, yeah.
exactly. And want to know why. And we're not here to bash. We're here to yeah, I really like some of the motivational stuff, and I'm glad you're paving the way. But damn, girl, some of the stuff just coming out of your mouth is like, wow.
I always say it's not my job to judge, so I would love to. I'd love to know what her
Yeah.
thoughts. And wouldn't it be